Hello, everybody, and welcome to Realm Walker, an Age of Sigmar podcast. I am your host, Gregory Benoit, joined today by my co-host.
Hello, it is Carlin. And Realm Walker, are you trying to say it's a singular show? You forgot the S at the end.
Nobody
You
else gets
bastard.
to come, just me. It's just me who gets to walk the realms.
And now I'm booted from the Zoom call.
So today we're trying something a little different, everybody. We are going to be doing a fan reading, a blind fan reading, in fact, of the recent Cursed City short called Nightguard. But before we get into that, we are going to get into what have we been hobbying lately. So, Carlin, want to start us off? What have you been hobbying lately?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. I am working on painting up my Gloomhaven models. Some friends and we're going to start up a Gloomhaven campaign. And I'm just getting all the starter classes painted up so that way they just look fancy and cool. Been revamping my hobby area. I think I mentioned that last time. Also, finished building the Artel W Iron Rider model that I am looking so forward to painting because it looks like it's going to be just an absolute gift to paint. Just it looks beautiful in every way.
Yeah. All right. So what have I been hobbying lately? Let's see. I have been adjusting my Space Marine army. After Bryce thoroughly kicked my ass, I realized I needed to move around who currently had jump packs. So some of the guys who had jump packs no longer have them, and some other dudes have jump packs now. Just to basically, I needed my librarians and my chaplains to have jump packs. I have, to Bryce's dismay, kit bashed a what's the guy who rides on the horse, the Griffin, the Lord Arcanum, I believe it is. Lord Arcanum.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's the Lord Arcanum or the Lord Relector, I think. The Stormcast that rides on the Griffin. I have kit bashed that to be a captain on bike for my Space Marine army as well, which I'm really proud of.
And you're right, it is Lord Arcanum on
Okay.
Griff.
Yeah, the Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger. Yes, that's been re-kit bashed, and I got some eliminators painted up as well. I've got a box ready to make a ton more Khorne Berserkers for my Khorne army. And the crisis suits have been moved from the table where I put all the models I'm about to paint over to the shelf, so they won't be painted anytime soon.
And the Shelf of Doom?
Yeah, well, I don't have a Shelf of Doom per se, but it's the shelf where those 5 crisis suits I refuse to paint are. They're next. I'm going to get them done next, I promise. And so that has been what I have been, that's been my hobby lately. So
I just want to do a quick little shout out. So it's just Greg and I tonight. Bryce unfortunately has some stuff going on, which means we've also pushed back doing the book a bit. We might cover it our own depending on how long some stuff happens. Either way, just to everyone out there, just send your thoughts, prayers, whatever you choose to believe in to Bryce. Just help him get through because he's a good guy and love to have him back soon.
Yeah, we do have, we got a couple of smaller podcasts hopefully coming at you. This one, and then we've got some short stories that me and Carlin are going to be reading on as well for you in the next episode.
Because short stories are awesome.
They are, in fact. So let us move on to the blind reading of Nightguard.
I am so stoked for Cursed City.
All right, so Nightguard, a Cursed City short by C.L. Werner.
And I know you haven't read too many novels, but this guy is fantastic.
Oh, dope. All right.
Yeah.
So, let's get into it. Morval Ulbrecht's eyes glittered from the shadows. His henchmen crept ahead of him through the decayed streets of Ulfenkarn. He needed a bold breed to range the city center, and bolder hearts to do so at night, when the dark things that infested the ruins were abroad. The howls and cries of hunting beasts rang out almost continuously in the distance, but never far enough away to be comfortable. When an especially fierce gale wind whipped across Banshee's Bay and coated Ulfenkarn in a chill mist, the shrieks of wandering geists and the roars of prowling Vargeists might become slightly subdued. But there was no delusion that the creatures were out there, searching for the foolish and the unwary to slake their undead hunger. The wizard stroked a long tuft of black beard that sprouted from his chin. He was neither foolish nor unwary. There was still much to learn about the ghastly curse that had tightened around Ulfenkarn. But he'd done his research before traveling to the city. His arcane sight enabled him to visualize the frayed wisps of magic that swirled through the runes and that terrible energies that exuded by the Shyish Nadir that every day drew just that little bit nearer to Ulfankar. Morval trembled as he conceived the magnitude of the power that must have caused the realm energies to shift from the fringes of Shyish to the center. But it did solidify his belief that if civilization were to thrive in this realm, its dread power had to be harnessed rather than shunned. This was the precept of all who practice amethyst magic.
The three men who'd been engaged by Morval for several weeks now were slinking cautiously past a gibbet hanging from the balcony of what might have been a guildmaster's residence in better days, but was now a crumbled ruin. He watched with grim humor when Bazadar folded his hands together and made the sign of Nagash, as though the Lord of Undeath could be appeased by such superstition. Bazadar was the oldest of the three, blind in one eye and claws of a bloodbath, most of 1 foot torn away by a ghoul. He was more desperate than the others for the path that Morval provided, trying to support several unsavory habits acquired when he'd been a skilled harpooner on the whaling ship. He lacked the self-reflection to appreciate that his own vices were what brought about his downfall long before the city laid low. Yes, Morval reflected, bold was the wrong word by which to describe his henchmen. Desperate was much better. Florian and Canamer had the same hungry recklessness that Bazadar displayed. They were younger, more callous than Harpooner, barely even glancing at the bloodless corpse locked in the gibbet. As long as they didn't suffer, they cared little about what happened to someone else, an attitude that was all too common among the wretches who existed in the slums on the periphery of Ulfankar, the only part of the city where the living still outnumbered the undead. We should be getting close to the old Dunelton menagerie, Bazadar told Morval. There won't be any beasts to scavenge, he added. Whatever didn't escape on its own will have been cleaned by something by now. Morval frowned at Bazadar's lack of imagination. I'm not after pelts or tusks. The carcass of a deep mare in one of those cages, or at least was. Wherever a deep mare dies, the ground becomes altered, and from its soil, the worm rose grows. He let his hand tap the haft of his scythe-like staff, his surface covered by winding thorns. Such flowers were used to construct grave bloom, he added. Tapped the staff again. If I could create another one like it, I need more worm roses. Bazadar gave the staff a frightened look. He'd seen the wizard channel his spells through it before, seen those thorns uncurled to snag an unwary man and siphon his vitality into Morval. It was good to see some fear in Bazadar's eyes. So long as he was afraid, he would do what he was told. How do you know the flowers are there? Florian demanded. The young thug wasn't nearly as intimidated by the harpooner. The same held for Canamir. Greedy and stupid were a good combination to shorten a life. You forget that I have eyes other than yours to find what I want in the ruins. Morval patted the rat perched on his shoulder. Such things aren't able to collect what they find. That's why I need you. The explanation settled their questions for now. Even if they were still curious, the crumbling wall that encircled an abandoned menagerie was just ahead. His henchmen became weary as they approached it. After so many years of neglect, an odor of exotic beasts lingered in the air. Morval smirked at their fright. They weren't nearly frightened enough.
This way! He directed the men to a hole in the wall. Morval guided them past empty cages with broken bars. Sometimes a strange bone or a bit of scaly hide remained to give some clue as to what had been once kept there. The worm roses were all that interested him now. He could not repress a deep chuckle when at last he spotted the old deepmare cage, a tangle of leprous flowers and crimson thorns growing from behind its bars. "Let's get this over with," Canamir said, clearly discomforted by Morval's humor. The men started forward, but Morval gestured for them to stay put. "Not yet," he said. "We must wait until they are in full bloom. An hour, perhaps 2. Unhappy with his decision, but still obeying, they drew back. Time crawled by while the men watched the worm roses. Morval was more interested in what he could hear. Soon enough, the sound he was waiting for reached him, the thud of heavy footsteps marching through the menagerie. A few seconds later, his henchmen heard something too. "Something's coming," Morval hissed. "Quickly, hide yourselves there." He gestured with the grave bloom at the collapsed remains of a fountain. The urgency in his voice sent the men scrambling. They did not pause to wonder why he didn't take cover alongside them, stepping inside behind the tangle of wormrose to watch events unfold. The footfall drew near. Soon a vast figure came lumbering out of the darkness. Twice as tall as any man, its shoulders as broad as a wagon. The thing carried with it a necrotic stench. It was an ogre, or at least, it had been when it was alive. Now its flesh was rotten and torn, revealing yellowed bones beneath. The cloths it wore were tattered in frays, its armor foul with rusty neglect. The brute carried a huge iron club in one of its immense fists. The other held a spider silk bag, its finery an alarming contrast to the otherwise monstrous appearance. The ogre was a Kazagari in life, the devoted minion of the vampire Radukar, who now ruled over Ulfenkarn. Death had transformed this thing into a Nightguard, and it had been sent here on a specific errand, the same Morval had told his henchmen about. It was here to gather worm roses. The ogre marched to the cage, but before it could get too close, Morval, the wizard, invoked a spell he'd been preparing. A nimbus of blue light erupted around the fountain and exposed the men hiding there. The night guard's ghastly eyes narrowed with belligerence. Tossing aside the bag, it raised its club and charged towards the fountain. Florian was struck down instantly, his bones snapping like twigs beneath the impact of the club. Canamir fared only slightly better, managing to draw out his sword and hack at the monster's arm. Though he cut a section of decayed flesh from the night guard, the undead was oblivious to the hurt. A sideways swat from its bludgeon stove the man's ribs in and threw him in the air, slamming against the bars of another cage. His mangled body clung there, plastered to the cage by its own gore.
Basadar raised his harpoon and nerved himself to use the relic from his wailing days against the ogre. Morval exerted some of his arcane power, and spectral light surrounded the head of the weapon. Basadar had seen this magic before, and, evidently, took courage in the thought that the wizard's magic was helping him. Shouting his defiance, he lunged at the night guard. The enchanted harpoon punctured the ogre's bloated gut and plunged beneath its ribs. Basadar wrenched it free, splattering the ground with shreds of flesh and splintered bone. No blood streamed from the wound, but decayed organs inside spilt out in a grisly display. The night guard, however, was immune to this hurt, as it had been to Canamar's blow. It lurched after Basadar and brought its club slamming down. Only narrowly did the harpooner avoid the murderous strike. Morval stepped out from behind the worm roses and lifted Grey Bloom. The scythe blazed with spectral energy as he channeled his magic through it. He saw the hope that filled Basadar's face when the man glimpsed him weaving another spell. That hope died fast. A withering miasma of ghastly energy erupted around both man and ogre, searing and clawing at them in a tempest of spectral rage. Basadar fell, his life force shriveled inside him. The night guard staggered, the club dropping from its massive fist as its supernatural strength was drained away. Instinctively, the brute turned towards Morval. It took a few stumbling steps towards the wizard, but the soul storm he had set upon it would not be denied. Before the ogre could close with his foe, the last of the necromantic power sustaining it had been sucked out. The monster crashed to the ground, its body rapidly putrefying. Morval hastened to the fallen Nightguard. A swing of Gravebloom's blade opened its necrotic chest. He reached in and ripped out the creature's heart, stuffing it in the same spider silk bag the ogre had brought with it. The undead heart would be useful in his researches into the power of the Shaius Nadir. The wizard looked over at Bossadar. He smiled as he stroked his beard. His late henchman would have been shocked to know it was the Nightguard, not the worm roses their patron had been after this night. The charmed vermin Morval used to spy for him had noted that the ogre came every third night to collect flowers for Radikar's thirsting court. The men had been bait to keep the monster busy while he worked his magic. It was callous, perhaps, to use him in such a manner. But after all, they were already plotting to dispose of their patron once they figured out a way to steal his treasure. Morval considered that he'd merely taken preventative action and one that made good use of their disposal. The distant howls were not so distant now. Flocks of the blood bats circled overhead, drawn by the sanguinary smell of battle. Morval secured his prize and hurried from the menagerie to return to his lair in the slums. Even a wizard was unwise to test providence too much in a place like Ulfenkarn.
All right.
Whew,
So,
I like it.
yeah,
Good
that was
story.
pretty. Yep, good story. Immediate thoughts: Morval, kind of a dick.
Mhm.
But yeah, I guess this really sets up the sort of the setting, because I actually hadn't considered that there was going to be any living people inside of the cursed city, but apparently there is, which is kind of interesting to think about.
Mhm.
It really sets up like this sort of dark horror atmosphere that we're going to be seeing when the game comes out.
I am so excited. I am so excited for the game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that it was real. Like, especially, I wonder if there's going to be like aspects of betrayal and like trying to get ahead in the game, because like that was kind of interesting. That with a plot twist being that Morval was just there to get the to get the Night Guard, and the
Yeah,
flowers meant absolutely nothing.
yeah. It is a cooperative game, but they might have some like versus type mechanics to it, like some games do. We'll see if one of it does and two of it does it well, because most games I find that do that don't tend to work too well, just because if you're backstabbing people in the back, it's really hard to work together.
Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up happening of it. In the
I,
grand scheme of things, the lore so far is seeming really interesting, and I'm liking the horror vibes that this got going on.
yeah. I'm also interested because so Morval, I was wondering if Morval was going to be one of the characters that you could play as in the game. It does not appear to be so. He seems to be either like a character that is not one of the main like heroes that you can play as, which probably makes sense because he's kind of a dick. But I wonder if he's going to show up in the game at all as
Yeah,
a
or at
character.
least in an expansion later on could
Yeah.
could be them long term in the game, because with
Re- oh, no, you
Blackstone
say.
Fortress they had a couple expansions that they did, so who knows?
Yeah, Radiker was mentioned, and as we
Mhm.
know, Radiker is the tyrannical master of Ulfenkarn, as his description says. So he's the guy with the big wolf pelt on. So I guess he killed one of his ogres. But yeah, I'm interested to see if there is going to be more information on this character Morval, because I specifically went to like look up if this was another character that I didn't know about,
Mhm.
and I haven't found any like after we finished, there isn't a character named Morval as far as I can tell in Age of Sigmar.
Okay.
Um, so this is a unique character to this story.
Hmm. Yeah, well, he seems like a neat character, at least in respects to like how he's portrayed. He's a dick. I won't say sounds like a nice guy or anything.
Yeah.
But I am very curious to see how they develop the story. Like, I will for sure be getting the book when it comes out. I will be begging my wife to let me buy the game. It all depends on the price of the game.
Yeah.
Um,
They haven't I thought they were doing pre-orders. I'm surprised they haven't
they just announced pre-orders, so it'll be going up on Saturday,
yes. Um
or it will already have been going on when this episode released. But either way, we're at the point where they just announced pre-orders.
for reference, apparently I don't know, I can't find where it's linked, but apparently the one of the old Battle Mage models from Games Workshop is like representative of Morval Ulbrich,
Okay,
who is only yeah, it's just there's a guy who's got like an hourglass and a scythe with some I'll see if I can find a picture.
sure.
Because I'm researching this while we're talking about it because it's supposed to be a blind reaction.
Yep. Well, I've read it.
Well, here we go. It's this guy. So it's the guy on the bottom right, if you or the bottom middle. He's got the the scythe, and you
Yeah.
can see the grave blooms or the grave
Yeah.
blooms on the scythe there.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's supposed to be
Oh wait, I remember now. The book will come with a character you can play with, a character card, and I think it's actually for that model.
yes. In fact, I believe it is.
Yeah. There we go. So yes, he will be a playable character.
Okay, cool. So I guess we've confirmed that he will be a playable character. I mean,
Done.
we'll definitely be doing more Cursed City content as it comes up.
Well,
But
yeah, because when they release the book and everything, I will be buying it and reading it, and we can figure out ways to cover it. Also, if they release more short stories, I definitely want to do this again.
yes, and if you liked the blind read, let us know. We absolutely could do more of them. I was particularly shocked when I found that there's a lack of at least fan reads fan reads for Age of Sigmar on YouTube. So if people want more content like that, because there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of it presently available, we will be happy to fill that market for you. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Are we good to check out then, I suppose?
Yeah, well, this has been a lot of fun, Greg, and thank you for the idea.
Yes.
Yeah, so this has been a short walk with the Realm Walkers. I need to figure out a name for the series. Short walk. I'm gonna go with that for now.
Yeah. Or with the oh wait, a series for the series for when we're doing these
short ones, or for live reads when you think of a name.
Oh, okay. Just take a short strolls, the realm stroll.
A short realm stroll would be like for our shorter episodes, and then for the blind reads, I'll think of a name for this. If you have a name, feel free to comment it on our Facebook page at Realm Walkers and AOS Lore Podcast. Also, feel free to message us. You should be able to do that. Also, you could send us email at realmwalkersaos@gmail.com. Yeah, so comment away, fire us an email. Let us know what you think because we want to know. Otherwise, we'll continue doing stuff and make you mad because we're not doing what you want. We want to do what you want. Tell us what you want, damn it.
Well, anyways, thank you everybody for joining us. And with joining us, as Carlin always likes to remind you, you are now Realm Walkers as well. That's official. You can take that to the bank. Y'all have a wonderful evening.
Do what you wish.
Yeah. You all have yourself a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for joining us as well.
Thank you so much, and keep reading great lore.